Tex Christopher.
Thank you,
buddy.
Yeah, we're live at Coffee Grounds. We got Tex Christopher, two of Houston's finest financial debt coaches. These guys are all about teaching and making your life better. Take it away, Tex.
All right. Well, it's good to have Bruce with us this morning, as well as Chris Kidd. Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, Tex, how are you?
I'm doing outstanding. Any
Good.
better than I'd be twins today.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what.
amen.
Everyone have a good Thanksgiving?
It's fantastic.
How about you, Chris?
It was great.
All right.
Finally went back down.
Went back to normal
Yeah.
size. I
Yeah.
got you. Well, what do you guys want to talk about this morning? We want
Well,
to talk about finances, right?
Yeah, Ed said something about financial health.
Financial health. Well, I tell you what, that's important. The two go together.
Amen.
Wealth and health, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
There you go. You know, the good books, 75% of the good books is talking about wealth.
It is.
It is. So what do you got for us this morning?
Actually, Bruce even is. He used to be a pastor, I believe.
Yes.
And you know, one of the things Jesus talked more about money than he did heaven and hell combined.
Yeah.
That he did. That he
amazing.
did. And if Jesus spoke about it, you know it was good.
Yeah. And
Most
important.
definitely. Very,
Important.
very, very important.
Yeah.
We only live once. It's make it or break it. There's so much that we can learn about finances to implement. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't understand how powerful time is. And time is the one thing that makes us equal. God gives us 1,440 minutes every single day. So it's not about the color of our skin, where we're born, what side of the tracks, but that time. But that time is so valuable in what we choose to do with that time. And you have to ask yourself, Houston, how much are you selling your time for?
Yeah.
It starts right there. What is it that you're exchanging that time for? What amount of finances? And then what are you doing with those finances and applying it rightly? Isn't that right?
It is.
All right.
And
So
what do
what
you do
kind
in your
of
free time?
Exactly, with that free time. And is it worth what you're exchanging for it? Because once
Yeah.
you've exchanged it, you cannot get it back.
Right.
And most people don't ask that question. But that's the difference in those that do and those that don't.
Yeah.
So what kind of advice do you have for Houston this morning, Bruce, in the area of finances?
Sure. Well, I would just encourage people to do what they can to rapidly eliminate debt. For most working individuals, the best way to get positive cash flow is through debt elimination. Now, for entrepreneurs, a lot of times they can just go and sell more widgets and increase their income. But for most people, rapid debt elimination is the way to create positive cash flow. Is that what you believe, Chris?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris and I have both written books on the subject of debt elimination. And in fact, there's a lot of similarities in them. And I've read his book, Defeating Debt, and it is fantastic.
It is.
Yeah, it's good.
You know, my wife read his book, and there was a CD that was on television. I don't know, you got 3 or 4 CDs for $29.95, and she just finished his book, and she looks at me, and I say, you know what? I want to get that. That's good car wash music.
Yeah.
I like to have good music as you're washing your car.
Yeah,
And
you
my
bet.
wife looked at me and says, well, Chris Kidd's book says, if you spend this money on this, is that going to help you meet your
Right.
other financial goals?
Right.
And I said, come on, we're talking about a CD, right?
Yeah.
But it is so important. You have
Sure.
to ask. Because
Sure.
the little things add up.
They really do. They do.
They really do. Well, what's some of the things that people should tackle first? They have all this debt. Where do they start? Do they start with their
Sure.
credit cards? Do they start with the little things that's eating up their money, like CDs? Maybe asking themselves, hey, is cable really important? Am I putting any money aside to go ahead and tackle this debt? What advice would you have?
Well, I certainly think if there's a way you can reduce expenses, that is wise. And there are a lot of simple ways. I mean, some people may not want to give up their cell phone, but they might can cut their minutes back.
Okay.
You know, there's some people may not want to cut cable completely, but they might could cut back to basic. So if one just looks through their expenses and asks themselves, hey, if I were to live without this for 6 months, would I die? And if the answer is I probably wouldn't die, they might can either cut it or at least reduce it for a while. And one of the things I think is important is to realize cutbacks don't have to be permanent. Sometimes you just aggressively attack debt for a season. Yeah, there's some cutbacks, there's a painful side to it, but if you look at the blessing side, it's so worth it. I have a couple of clients who are school teachers. They have a total household income of $70,000 per year. They paid off all debt, including their house, in 11 months. and that enabled them to experience a positive cash flow of $3,000 per month, which is pretty good for middle class income homes.
Sure.
And they basically just minimized expenses to the max and did a few other things we don't have time to get into today, but there are ways to conquer debt, and it's exciting and worth it.
It is.
That was a point that you probably share with your wife is in my book when I talked about that, a lot of it was because some of you may have heard my story about my ramen noodle diet, and I got really crazy. I would not spend money anywhere that would not come back. So, for a couple years I did that, and once you get to a position where you're out of debt and you can enjoy some things, you can enjoy some stuff sometimes. Otherwise, what good is money for? If you can't enjoy it a little bit. But yeah, like Bruce said, you give up something in the short term to experience something that's far greater in the long term.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And for most people, not all people, struggling is part of it. I mean, you struggle and you fail, or you struggle and you succeed. And sometimes, in the area of our finances, people struggle.
Sure.
And yet we have to realize that there's $16 trillion of U.S. currency floating the globe every single day. God gives us plenty of time to go after that, and we can be aggressive.
Sure.
Now, we all have what we have because of our position. If we want more Houston, all we have to do is change our position. And you go through those times, but you have to buckle down. Sometimes you have to pay the price. You got to go through things that are extremely challenging that builds character during that time. I tell you what, for the longest, me and my wife were out there, and we were wanting to be the Smiths and the Jones, and one day I looked at her and I said, I don't even know any Smiths. I don't know any Jones.
Yeah.
Why in the world are we trying to be like these people that we don't even know?
Yeah.
But Houston, I do encourage you. I'm someone that I have a house, I have no mortgage, I have vehicles, that are paid for, and to live a life of abundance, especially being a young person, and to be able to live that life, it is so worth it. But sometimes you have to go through those pains, and it is just all part of it. But once you cross over, there's nothing like it, and that stress that used to be in your life, always wondering, it's gone. And that right there is worth $1 million, and you don't have to have a
That's awesome.
You don't. And how? Well, what do you have for us, Chris? What are some of the key things that people can do?
Well, as far as what they can do, obviously, like Bruce said, eliminate expenses at all possible, get out of debt first, and then once you're getting in a position where you've got more cash flow, which, getting out of debt takes care of that, you want to have some sort of a cushion, that's built up, a security blanket. Typically, around 6 months worth of living expenses. 3 would be really conservative. 12 would be about as far as I would go, but I would say around 6 months worth of cash sitting somewhere that's just, what if you lost your job? Because there's a lot of people losing jobs right now and have been over the last, over the last year or so. What if something like that happened, and would you have money to fall back on? If you have your own business, do you have money set back that, okay, well, if the business does end up failing, you're not supposed to think like that, but if the business did fail, do you have cash that's set aside that, okay, well, now we know how far we can go, and then at this point, we have to go out and look for some other sorts of income or some sort of work temporarily.
Sure. And this is so important because money is attracted to money. So people listening right now, they go, well, wait a minute, what do you mean 6 months, 12 months, 3 months? But you have to understand the power of money. Just like water falls from the sky and water is attracted to water automatically, it is amazing. You take $100 and you set it aside, and it will grow. And you put a 20 with it, right? Am I right?
Sure.
Before
absolutely.
You know it, it's like, oh my gosh, there's $2,500 in this can.
Yeah.
Now there's 3,000, 6,000.
Yeah.
It just grows. But it all starts with that seed, and you have to plant that seed. And for me and my wife, we've done it plenty of times with coffee cans. Or playing, hide money here and there throughout the house, and it's just amazing. It sits there and it calls on each other, and it's saying, hey, we want more, we want more.
Well, we've got to wrap up, but I know they can get more information from me at chriskidd.com. I've got a free newsletter there, CHRISKIDD.com. And Bruce,
Yeah, my website is godsmoneycoach.com, and I've got a free downloadable article on how to pay off a 30-year mortgage in 5 years or less, and I have done it. So go grab that at godsmoneycoach.com.